Alrighty. So I guess we'll start off just by asking, what is like a daily thing like in your job? What do you do each day? Just tell me a little bit about it.
Sure. So I'm the Equine and Environmental Science Coordinator for the State 4-H program. So pretty much each day I will log on to my email. I'll check everything, make sure there's no issues with any of the programming that we have going on. I look and see what kind of events that we have coming up. In the spring is when we have all of our big events, all of our big contests that we have. We have horse bowl contests, horse judging, hippology, communications contests. So that's when I start preparing for all of those contests. It's a lot to do in like a short amount of time.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of like event planning, event coordinating during that time. And then kind of when we get into the summer, I kind of switch gears into doing some more like online programming and doing some stuff with some fairs and getting ready for the state horse show and doing some things like that. And then we get ready for our national contest in the fall. And so that's sort of what I do in a nutshell.
Okay, yeah. So you kind of mentioned a little bit into it, but would you say that like one season is way busier than any other, or is it kind of even throughout?
Definitely the spring is more busy. So in 4-H, we have this saying that we have the 17th Saturday spring.
Okay.
Between all of the different species or the different things that we have to do in 4-H, almost every weekend we have an event going on.
Mhm.
And on the equine side, like every month we have some sort of event. And it starts in February, and we have our first event, and it's called the Horseman's Party. It's usually at the end of February, and it's sort of like our kickoff to our year. We celebrate the past year with our, we have 3 award winners that we award. We have a Volunteer of the Year award, an Industry Partner award, and an Extension Professional award. And then we also recognize our national teams that competed at our Eastern National Roundup from the previous year. And we also recognize our horsemanship standards winners from the previous year as well. And then we kind of get everybody jazzed and hyped up for the new year. And it's sort of our kickoff, right? And everybody's super excited to start the year. And then the next month for March, we have our horse bowl competition. And that's sort of like Jeopardy, right? We have buzzers and we have teams of 5 and you compete against each other. And you get asked all of these horse knowledge questions. And for our senior teams, the top 10 come back and compete to be on the national team.
Very cool.
And yeah, so, and then we keep going with all of our other contests. We have a communications contest, usually in April, and that's our public speaking contest. And then in May, or June, kind of depending on how our year runs, we have our horse judging contest and our hippology contest. So definitely this spring, it's kind of like boom, 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 every right in a row. So
Yeah,
it's
for
pretty
sure.
busy.
So you're the event coordinator. So do you just plan the events or do you get to go to the events and like work with the kids? How does that work?
I do both. So I plan the events. I put together all of like the knowledge side. I do everything. I get all the volunteers coordinated. I do all of the communication between the volunteers, between the youth, registration, And then I help run the events as well. I'm there from, like 6 a.m. to 5 p.m., however long the
Oh, wow.
event runs. Yeah, I'm kind of the go-to person. Chris Anderson also works at the state 4-H office. He's the animal science specialist. I work very closely with him as well. He is also there to help make things run smoothly with me as well. We're kind of like a dynamic duo. We work very close together to make sure things run smoothly. But I do a lot of that type of work. And then when the event wraps up, I kind of do all of the wrap up, if, make sure if we need something changed for the next year, write notes about it and make sure we implement those changes for the next year.
Cool, cool. So, as you go to the events, you obviously get to travel a fair amount. Do you go far away or is it all pretty local?
It kind of depends. We try to spread it out throughout the state, just because, we have so many youth across the state in Western Maryland, in this, all the way to the Eastern Shore. This past few years, we've kind of kept things centralized, just so we kind of all come together. But in the future, we are going to try to spread it out. That way, people from the Eastern Shore don't have to travel as far. Same thing from people up in Western Maryland. That way, we can kind of spread it out more evenly.
Right. So tell me a little bit about how things have been different with COVID this year, with like not being able to have large gatherings or things getting canceled. How has that affected what you do?
Sure. So, of course, everything, kind of just started happening right as soon as we were getting ready to do all of our big events, right? We got through our big kickoff of the year, our Horseman's Party. Everybody was so excited to start the year. And then it's like, oh my gosh, COVID happened. And, at the time, it happened so fast and we weren't, at the time, nobody had any idea how we could switch so fast to a virtual format. With our horse bowl competition, it's something that really has to be done in person. And, we didn't at the time have the technology or resources that we could switch quickly enough to have it be a virtual contest. So unfortunately, we had to cancel that contest and then it kind of snowballed from there. And most of our events, not only the equine side, but throughout all of 4-H ended up having to be canceled. However, there were some events that I was able to incorporate into a virtual format. Our communications contests or public speaking, I was able to make that into a virtual format. I was able to let the youth video themselves at home, and then they could send their video to me using a Google, which was really, really nice. We actually had the most entries we've ever had with that.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was really exciting. So I'm thinking we might actually transition that to virtual all the time.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, and then we also implemented a virtual art and photography contest this year, just so we could keep going with some of the programming. And we, didn't want people to think, that the program was, not important. We tried to do as much as we could with the resources that we had. And throughout this year, a lot of the different states, we all came together and we brainstormed and, helped each other and used a lot of different ideas from each other. We started doing, like things in a box that we could, send to our youth to doing a lot of things via Zoom. So still keeping the youth engaged just as much as we could, in a virtual format. So, we learned a lot and hopefully, this next year, fingers crossed we can still be in person, but if for some reason we can't, we gained the tools and the knowledge that we are prepared to switch over to a virtual format for everything. So we
Okay.
are prepared to do either,
Yeah.
but are really looking forward to doing in person.
Right. So are you guys currently online? Are there events going on right now, or is it only in like the early months that they're going on?
So right now, we're kind of in our transition into our new year, right? So
Okay.
we're putting together our yearly calendar. November and December are pretty quiet months for us. Usually we'd be wrapping up like our national contests right now. Fortunately, all of those have been canceled or postponed. So right now we're brainstorming, we're getting things together to kick off the new year. So we're, getting all of our ideas, getting all of our resources together, getting all of our potential dates together, having advisory committee meetings, more now than ever, just so we can have, multiple dates and multiple, A, B, C, D, all the way through Z different plans together. So really trying to commit and make things work for 2021.
Yeah, okay. So you mentioned how you were talking with other states and getting like their opinions on what they're doing and getting new ideas. Is that something you guys regularly do, or is that just because of COVID you're like cooperating with other states?
So it's something that we do pretty frequently. We all, in extension, we all work together. We love sharing ideas. It's not like we keep things, to ourselves.
Right.
We're super open to sharing ideas. We love doing that. But now more than ever, I think because of COVID, every state is like, oh my gosh, we've never gone through something like this. So now than ever, we really kind of came together, really brainstormed. I'm a part of a really great extension group. Only a horse group, and it's a nationwide group, and we all come together once a month and we brainstorm all sorts of different ideas and share with each other. So it's, we just have come together so much this past year and really shared some really exciting things that we can implement forever now, which has been really great.
Yeah, I bet that's really helpful.
It is. It's really helpful. And it makes us, really feel like we're not alone, and just, it really brings like the equine community together and shows us how such a tight knit group we are. So it's really nice.
Nice. So are you involved in only the equine side of things, or do you ever get involved in other livestock or other 4-H events?
So my title is the Equine and Environmental Science Coordinator. So primarily I do equine, but I also work with Amanda Wall, who is who is an environmental science specialist, and I help her with primarily shooting sports. So it has nothing to do with equine at all.
Yeah.
So I help a lot with her doing kind of the same thing that I do with equine, a lot of event coordinating throughout the year. And it's sort of the opposite schedule of equine, which is nice. So I keep busy in the fall with all of those events. And then I also help with any livestock events. All of us in 4-H, we jump in wherever we're needed. So, I grew up on a farm in Nebraska, and I showed all sorts of different livestock animals. So I'm pretty, I have a lot of knowledge in different species. So I jump in wherever needed. I try to go to all of the different events and help, whether it's grading exams, setting things up, moving groups, being a monitor, whatever I can do, I try to be there to help and support in any way I can.
Yeah, okay, that's cool. What would you say is about your favorite thing you get to do in your position?
Oh my gosh. That's such a loaded question. That's so
Right.
hard. um, Probably my favorite thing is, oh,
It's okay if you have like a couple favorites.
So one of my favorite things, I love coordinating the event. So I really like um, putting things in order. I really like organizing things. So I really love coordinating the events and seeing everything play through the day of, and seeing the youth flourish and
Mhm.
seeing them start the event and finish the event and seeing how excited they are to come and be a part of an equine program, see their friends from across the state, when they haven't seen each other in a while, and they give big hugs. And of course, not during COVID, 6 feet apart,
Right.
give, virtual or a, high five or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's really, really exciting for me as an extension professional to see. And then I really love, I get to go and travel a lot to the national contests with the state teams, and that's really exciting. I kind of get to see our senior team members come full circle from the time they're like itty bitty little juniors, they're like 10 years old, all the way up to when they're, 16, 17 years old. So I get to see them really come full circle, which is really, really exciting. See them kind of grow up and go off and go to college and go do some really fun equine things. So that's really exciting too.
Yeah, that's cool. What would you say would be some of the challenges of your job?
Um, some of the challenges are, sometimes it gets really, really busy, and sometimes you get overwhelmed a little bit with how busy it can be, especially in the spring, because there's so many different events going on. And sometimes you um, don't make time for your personal self, and you can get caught up in your work, and you just don't remember to take time off and time for yourself. So I'm still pretty new in my extension career here in Maryland. So that's one thing I'm still working on is making sure that it's okay to say no sometimes and to take some time off, take a weekend off, or take a day during the week off and just, not answer some emails and things. So sometimes that can be a big challenge.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Would you say that during the spring you have like kind of set hours, or is it kind of crazy, like whenever they need you, you're there?
It's can definitely be crazy. you know, um, Usually, our set hours can be from like 8 to 4:30, but sometimes I'm there from like 7 to 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
you know, you work until the work is done. And then in the weekends, sometimes, we're there from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., depending on how long the event is. Sometimes you're there both Saturdays and Sundays. But I wouldn't have it any other way. I grew up doing 4-H, so all I know, and I love it. So it doesn't feel like work to me. So
Mhm.
if that makes sense. So it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything but what I've always done. It's so fun to me. So I enjoy it. It goes by fast, so you don't realize that you may have worked like a 12 or 14-hour day because it goes by so fast. And then you get home and you're really tired, but you get a good night's sleep after that.
Yeah. So how'd you kind of get into, you said you grew up doing 4-H. How'd you get into like the position you have now? Like what'd you do to get that job?
Sure. So I originally grew up in Nebraska. And like I said, I did 4-H my entire life since I was 8 all the way through until I aged out. My primary species was equine, but I showed cattle, rabbits, even my cat, because show companion animals. And once I aged out of 4-H, I went to the University of Nebraska Lincoln and I got my bachelor's in animal science with a production management option. And when I got my bachelor's, I got really, really involved in pretty much anything I could extracurricular wise in my undergrad. And we had a program there. It was an extension program, and it was called a horse intern program. So, and it was pretty much exactly what I do now. I helped run the state 4-H program. And I was really familiar with the program. I grew up in it. I grew up in the Nebraska program, so I knew it like the back of my hand. And I was like, oh, this is going to be so great. I get to see the other side of the program, how everything is run. And I fell in love with it. I loved coordinating the events. I loved seeing and getting to know the volunteers. And once I graduated, I still was able to be the UNL horse intern because I rolled right into my master's program. Through UNL, I got my master's in applied animal science with a youth extension education option. So, and that's where, again, I fell in love more with extension.
Yeah.
And about 7 months into my master's program, one of my colleagues sent me this job application for Maryland. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is your perfect like dream job, but oh, it's all the way in Maryland.
Yeah.
I was only a few months into my master's program, but I talked to my advisor and she was like, this is too good of a program or of a job to pass up.
Mhm.
We worked it out, we talked about it, and she was like, you need to apply, and if you get the job, we will switch your master's program to be online.
Oh, cool.
I interviewed and I ended up getting the job. So I switched my master's program to be online, and my first 2 years here, I completed my master's while working full time. And so that's kind of how I ended up here in Maryland. So it
Yeah.
takes a lot of work, but it's kind of all I've ever known. And I knew I wanted to do some sort of extension work once I got out of 4-H and kind of saw the other side of it. I fell in love with it and it's
Mhm.
all I've ever known, and it's all I kind of want to do now.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you talked about a little bit about your master's. Is that something that was a requirement for the job or something that just helped you having it?
It was not a requirement, but it definitely helps you. Um, it is preferred. So, when you look on a job application, requirement bachelor's, but preferred master's.
Mhm.
But I didn't have my master's at the time, but they knew that I was getting my master's. They knew it was very important for me. And even though I was still going to school, I told them I'm committed to my work here. I will still work full time. And all of my master's classes were in the evening, so it never conflicted with my work. And when I was getting my master's, if for some reason I had a class that was during an event or something like that, my professors were they worked with you. They're very understanding because most people who get their master's have full-time jobs or things like that. So they understand that if you have something going on, then, they work with you.
Yeah.
So
Was that a lot to juggle at once or was it not too bad?
it was definitely challenging at times. A
Yeah.
lot of late nights and early mornings, especially when you get into writing your thesis.
Oh, yeah.
It was pretty challenging, but mind over matter. I knew I needed to do it. I wanted to do it. It was a big goal of mine. And once I did it, once I graduated, I was like, huge weight off your shoulders. I checked it off my box, and I was done. Like 21 years worth of school. And
Yeah.
I was done. I got it, and now I'm done with school.
That's awesome. So kind of my last question for you would be, what would you tell a student right now that's trying to get a job similar to yours or just in the equine industry in general, especially if they don't have like prior experience with 4-H and things like that? Like how can they get involved in that way?
I would definitely tell them, reach out to like our state 4-H office. Oftentimes we are looking for some student workers. Also reach out to your local extension office. Each county has a local extension office. They are usually more than willing to either, they might have some work at the office. You could volunteer. During the summer, there's always county fairs that you could potentially volunteer at. There's a lot of different like 4-H clubs that you could potentially volunteer at. You do have to become a certified volunteer with the state of Maryland. If you want to volunteer, you have to go through a background check and some different different types of programs in order to get certified, but it's definitely worth it. And it's a great program to get involved in. And it's very satisfying. You work with the youth. Like I kind of said earlier, you get to see them kind of come full circle. And, I'm a really great resource. I can point you in all sorts of different directions. And if you're trying to get involved in, different aspects of the horse industry in Maryland or outside of Maryland, I am a great resource for that too. I know a lot of different people here in Maryland and outside. If you're looking to go to, Kentucky or Oklahoma, Texas, wherever you're looking to go to, if I don't know somebody, I know somebody who knows somebody.
Right.
Or Dr. Amy Burke, she'll know somebody who knows somebody, right? The biggest thing you can do is just get involved, talk to somebody, reach out. We're very willing to help type of people. We are always looking for volunteers. You can never find enough people to help. So that's kind of the biggest thing.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for meeting with me. I really appreciate hearing a little bit about your career and what you
Yeah,
do.
definitely. You're very welcome.
All right.